Welcome to today's show, Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, passionate, inspirational speaker, author, poet, and entrepreneur. Welcome to Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm delighted that you joined me today. I want to give a big thank you to those of you who are listening today, and here's a great big shout out to all of you listening all around the world. I'm delighted and so grateful that you tuned in. I sure hope you're enjoying a fabulous day today and that you're having a fantastic week, because you know what? In the grand song of the universe, life is so very short. It's short and sweet and very, very precious. So I hope you're making a difference in your own life, because when you do, you also make a difference in someone else's life. Now, a lot of folks want to make their life count for something, and they ask me, Dr. Gloria, how do you do that? Well, it's very simple, very simple. You make your life count day by day, step by step, moment by moment, every single day, 365, 24/7. That's what Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count is all about. You can learn more about Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count by visiting the Gloria Burgess website. That's GloriaBurgess.com, the Gloria Burgess website, GloriaBurgess.com, or by visiting Facebook, and that's Facebook.com/DR for Doctor, DrGloriaBurgessPhD/. Okay, now, today I want to talk with you about leadership, about courageous leadership, a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Specifically, we're going to focus on an approach to leadership, and this particular approach is called the Courage Way. The Courage Way, which is all about leading and living with integrity. And today's podcast focuses on a book that's called The Courage Way, Leading and Living with Integrity. How about that? The book was written by Shelly Francis, and she's joining me today as my very special guest. So, what exactly is the Courage Way? And what does it mean? And what does it take to lead and live with integrity? Well, Shelly will help us address those burning questions today. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Shelly is a person of influence, and she's quite inspiring. Shelly is a leader who makes a difference in her own life and in the lives of so many others throughout the world through her work with the Center for Courage and Renewal, a nonprofit organization based in Seattle, Washington. In fact, she wrote the book, The Courage Way, in her role as the center's Director of Marketing and Communication. Before coming to the center, Shelly directed trademarking and publicity for a multimedia publisher called Sounds True. She's worked in diverse sectors including business, high-tech, healthcare, government, and publishing. She's also owned 2 small businesses. Shelly says the common thread throughout her career is bringing to light the best-kept secrets while bringing people together to facilitate collective impact and good work. I just love that. Now, I first met Shelly in her role at the Center for Courage and Renewal. Years ago, I became familiar with the Center's work through my own work in leadership. And during the past dozen or so years, I was fortunate to become what I would call a friend of the Center. So, over the years, I've come to know a number of individuals there. When I heard about Shelly's book, I was absolutely delighted. And when I heard her speak about her book, she was positively on fire. So to simply say that Shelly is interested in her work and book on leading and living with integrity would be an understatement. She is so passionate about her work, and I must say she is a woman with a mission. She's on purpose and on fire to change the world, and in particular to change the world for people who want to connect who they are with what they do. I think that includes most people on the planet. Now, when you hear her story, you will learn why Shelly is so passionate about making a difference, about changing and impacting the world in this way. I was struck by her passion. But this is just one of the many wonderful qualities that drew me, and I should say that draws so many people to Shelly and her work. Indeed, we are blessed to have her as one of our honored mentors on this show. She's an incredible leader, a writer, and storyteller, with a particular focus on serving other leaders. In many ways, in her outlook on life and in her work, Shelly pulls together the many threads of what my own life and work are all about. Now, you've heard me talk many, many times about these threads and themes on this show. The themes of gratitude, authenticity, generosity, courage, integrity, passion, presence, trustworthiness, hope, and possibility. I just love it. Two women, Shelly and me, with very different backgrounds and experiences, and yet with so many common threads. Can I just tell you something? Shelly and I had a marvelous conversation. I'm so excited to have this amazing leader with us today. This is going to be a fabulous show. You don't want to miss a single minute of it. So, put on your walking shoes, grab your earbuds, or simply relax in your favorite chair. Grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea or a nice cool glass of water. We're going to have a great time. Before I jump into today's show, I want to take just a moment to welcome you. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Dr. Gloria, and this is Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'd like to extend a special welcome to those of you who are joining my show for the very first time. You're in for a real treat. I'm excited to have you listening in today, and I'm deeply honored that you've allowed me to be part of your day so you can be inspired by the ideas and resources to make your life count. Today's program is all about courageous leadership. Specifically, it is about leading and living with integrity. Can you talk with us a little bit about, you've mentioned the term inner work several times, and can you talk to us about inner work and specifically the inner work of leadership?
Sure. I think as leaders, we're often stuck in our ego when we introduce each other. Here's who I am on my resume. Here's how smart I am from my intellect. Here's who I am on the outside. But as leaders, we don't often take time or feel that we can be vulnerable. I mean, I think it takes courage to be kind because people might think you're going to be weak. You risk being seen as weak. It takes courage to let people know the story behind your passion or why you went into your career as you did. So the inner work is looking beyond just your ego story and looking inside at your motivations and your values and even your biases and assumptions. And it's not all looking at just your inner strength. And, I think when people are looking for what kind of job they want or what career they want to move into, it's often based on identifying your gifts and your strengths, and that's really important. But it's also about acknowledging your shadows and your limits so that you can be honest and, more self-aware. So it takes inner work. It's not the external. It's looking inward, and that takes a lot of courage. And it takes community. It takes other people who are willing to go with you to that space.
And when you talk about community and people going with you to that space, I mean, I teach this way, so I know what you mean, but can you unpack that a little bit for our listeners? Like, what does that look like in real time?
Right. I thank you for reminding me, because it is easy to use the code language rather than translate this into understandable stuff.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, thank you.
How can we have conversations where we share our true stories with each other? How can we ask each other questions that get to our deeper stories, and even just take time to do that? So it goes back to the touchstones of creating the conditions where we can interact with each other in that way, or even just be aware that that's a possibility. So, for instance, when we're starting meetings at work, rather than just jumping straight into the agenda, you can take time to just check in with each other. And maybe not just check in with, I'm really busy today and I got so much to do. But if you can create an introductory prompt that takes people out of their everyday life. So here's one that we've used at the office sometimes is we'll say, as a way of checking in today, why don't you share something that you noticed on the way to work this morning? And people might say something like, well, I just saw Mount Rainier. It was visible today because it's a clear day, and I just noticed everybody commenting on, did you see the mountain this morning? I mean, that's a very Seattle thing. Or they might say, I saw a homeless person this morning that was begging, and it made me sad. Or they might say, I just noticed the birds were singing this morning. There's just something about bringing yourself to work, to a conversation, or just showing up differently that gives people a little bit of taste of your life or what you notice. It just is a way of getting to know each other a little more deeply as humans, rather than just who we are in our roles at the office.
So it gets back to what you mentioned earlier, which is, who are you, not just what do you do?
Right. And who are you on the inside? Or, what motivates you? What makes you happy? And where do you come from? And, getting to know each other beyond the surface, I think helps us connect and recognize what we have in common, but it also allows ourselves to give each other some grace when we're not having a great day. We have more compassion and empathy for each other.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that it also builds a stronger team. So when the going gets rough, you have each other's back. And, when the going is great, you can celebrate differently together.
Right, yeah. I think it's that sense of being in it together, in a sense of shared mission that comes out of talking about what's important to you. And when you have rough times, I think you're more likely to trust that it's okay to talk about needing more help or acknowledging what's hard. And so you can get over those rough spots because you can trust each other. And trust takes time to build up. You just can't insist on it. You have to create the conditions for it.
Yeah, and it's a process. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And I want to ask you another question about leadership. It's kind of connected to what you just said, Shelly, but I know that the Center for Courage and Renewal uses leadership a little bit differently than we might often think about in our regular culture. And so can you just say a little bit more about leadership in that respect?
Yeah, we almost didn't want to start talking about leadership because there's a sense that to be a leader, you have to be at the top of the org chart, or you have to be at the top of the hierarchy. And, leadership is not just at the top. Leadership can show up at any level of life and organization. We need people at all levels feeling like they can lead with integrity. Some of the things is leadership is keeping your values in sight regardless of the pressures around you. Or leadership can be listening well and inviting the opinions and answers from other people.